Hello again. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 6. This will be the sixth and final segment of these presentations on Laudato Si, praise be to you, Lord, the care of our common home, which is Pope Francis's encyclical, which came out in May of 2015. Okay, but the sixth chapter, this is called Ecological Education and Spirituality, and the educational segment of this by Francis really has to do with our way of thinking. And he says, I've said this before, unless we change our way of thinking, we will not change our way of acting, And so it's about educating, and I think a lot of people still haven't really agreed that there is climate change or that the effects of it, and some of the scientists are screaming at, that it's drastic and we're in crisis. So there's a lot of education to be done, And what that means is that we have to open our minds to a change of lifestyle, And it's pretty hard to tell people you have to change your lifestyle, But there's a lot of good that comes out of doing that, simplifying how much we consume and how much we waste, and the type of things we buy, especially, of course, the big number one culprit from the human activity, which the scientists told Francis was the cause of climate change or global warming, is human activity. What that means, basically, number one is fossil fuels. We've probably mentioned that before, And they are being trapped, and they're heating the environment, way back in the beginning, I said we were going to follow a three-step process, which was see the problem, judge from scripture and tradition the problem, and then act on the problem. And we're now in the last segment of the action steps, and education is the big one. It is an educational challenge, a great challenge for us, to recalibrate, as it were. One of the big things, especially for the Catholic tradition, is to include in what we call salvation not just human nature, but all of creation. Because there is a lot of life on the planet that the Creator has put here, meaning plants and animals, and he says we lose thousands of species of plants and animals every year. So that's a big segment, and that's something a little bit new for us, Now, when I say that, I have a prop or two that I'm wearing today. I have my friend St. Francis with me, who's with me every day at my home. He's kind of an inspiration for everything I do. The Laudato Si, care of our common home, comes from his canticle, But I'm wearing a stole that I got at a community event in La Mesa here in San Diego, and on it are the symbols of many of the faith traditions of the world. I don't know most of them, but the point is that almost all faith traditions are onto this. They're saying we have to make a faith response to this problem, which is affecting not just human life, it is, but all of life on the planet, And that's a real educational challenge for us, Also, I have a new button today. I went to a 3-day work training session in Los Angeles with about 4 or 5 other people. Three of them, plus myself, are from my team here in the diocese. And we went to that, and now we're called climate change leaders, We're expected to do what I'm doing right now. And that is what this chapter is about: educate and bring out the spirituality, of climate change and what I am doing, what Laudato Si is trying to do for us, And the spirituality of this has to do with our spirit, of course, And I was asked that question at KPBS months after it came out, and I read the encyclical, and I went, first question that Maureen Kavanaugh asked me was, Father, why do you consider this to be spiritual? And my first thought was, I wish I got the questions first, but I said, well, let's see now. It has to do with what's between this ear and this ear. She said, excuse me? I said, it has to do with our values. It has to do with our attitudes. It has to do with the way we think. And the way we think changes the way we act, And for a Christian, our tradition has always raised up for us moderation. There's an old phrase in Latin, in medio state vir, I had to think for a minute there, which means virtue stands in the middle, no? Everything is good in moderation, no? Right now, what we're doing with our consumption and our fossil fuels is way beyond the moderation and is causing a real problem, no? But going back to that spirituality idea, is simplifying our lifestyles, no? Rather than saying change your lifestyle, just simplify it, no? Throw away less, eat less red meat. I read sometimes, we should have one meatless day of the week. I think, well, we should turn that around so we have one meat day during the week, because it's good for your health. It's good for your pocketbook, but it's also very good for the environment because of the amount of methane that's put into the air by the animals, and also the amount of water that it takes to produce a pound of beef, no? So a lot of this comes down to acting together in solidarity so that we can make a change, no? And sometimes this sounds very negative, and people feel overwhelmed because you say, well, this is a global problem. Why are you talking to me about it, Well, I think it was Desmond Tutu from South Africa, an Anglican bishop, who said, every one of us is part of the problem, every one of us is part of the solution. And that's very true. Every person, even the children in the grade school, get it. The thing about not throwing away plastic bottles. They know that there's a garbage dump in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that's the size of Texas. I just heard the other day that a ship left San Francisco going out, and there's a crane on board to try to lift some of that stuff and get it out of the ocean because it is killing marine life, no? Not as much as the temperature of the waters is, but it is killing it because they eat the styrofoam, they eat the plastic, and they disguise it or they think it's food. So spirituality of this has to do with those attitudes, the values, and it has to do with our stewardship of the earth. What are we doing with the gift that God gave us? Creation and everything on the earth. And I probably already have mentioned what Patriarch Bartholomew, he's kind of the Pope, the Patriarch of the Eastern Orthodox Church, he said that for humans to contaminate the air, the water, and the land, these are sins, because an offense against another human being or against creation or nature is a sin against the Creator. We don't have that right. And so our stewardship of the earth right now is a little bit probably disappointing to our Creator, because of what we're doing with the gift that He gave us. It's like somebody gives you a gift and you throw it in the trash. So we have to change our way of thinking about what we are doing, and especially in regards to those fossil fuels. That doesn't mean that there isn't change taking place. There is. There are a lot of things happening, and they can't happen fast enough. I would point to, as you know, solar panels. 50% of the parishes in this diocese of San Diego now have solar panels. I'm surprised. I go around visiting parishes a lot, and wow, they have solar panels. Or there's a machinery working in the parking lot putting in the carports to install the solar panels. So that's one of the things. The other thing is the wind energy. If you've ever gone out to the Imperial Valley, when you get to the top at the 4,000 foot level on both sides of the Freeway 8, there are those windmills. If you go up to Palm Springs and Palm Desert, it's full of them. It's loaded with them. But in the Imperial Valley, when you hit the floor, which is sea level, you see more mills, more windmills. And you go a few more miles and you see acres and acres of solar panels that tilt with the sun to the east and to the west. So it's growing. Some countries, Bolivia for instance, it went off the charts because they put money into it. They made it their politics to put in these solar panels. Denmark and Portugal some days are 100% energy-free or sustainable energy from those mills. Not always, not every day, but here in the United States, my home state of Iowa has 39%, and you drive through it, it's cornfields. It's green from end to end. But right in the middle of cornfields, you see these. They look like the Eiffel Tower, the old-fashioned mills, solar, the windmills generating electricity, because they've been there quite a while. So it's happening. And I think the biggest one will be the electric cars. It's coming. I think it's 45 companies or car companies that are racing to get the best electric car. And the big bugaboo is to be able to capture the sun. Someone said now that cars are going to have on their roof solar panels. I don't know, I haven't seen that. But it's capturing the sun and capturing the wind. There's enough energy in the sun and the wind for all the energy use of the whole world if we could capture it. And it's been there from day one and it's free. That's the challenge. And the second challenge is to have the batteries to store it. And once we get those, I tell people or ask people in my workshops, I say, do you think someday we'll have electric airplanes? They look at me like, how is that possible? I said, well, if we get cars that run on, and then of course, instead of gas stations, we'll have the plug-in charging stations. No? So it's coming. There is a lot of change. I go around doing what I'm doing right now, trying to teach. That's the 6th chapter, education and spirituality. I give workshops. A lot of you perhaps know that. I've taken on that job here in the diocese. I've been to close to a third maybe of our parishes, almost 30, giving these workshops in Spanish or in English. And the idea is to set up a little team. It's called a creation care team. That's one of the things I'm doing. And the preaching element of it is, recently I offered to preach at all the masses at any parish that wants me to do it. And I'll preach on Laudato, the climate change, care of our common home. And about 4 parishes right now are looking for a date for me to do that. So it's very slow, but it's coming. And the third thing that we just did, I had some help with this. We went to about 50 parishes and we dropped off something that's called the St. Francis Pledge. And this was devised by the Catholic Climate Covenant in Washington, D.C. And what this is, it says here, it consists of 3 things: pray, educate, and advocate. Pray that we are able to make this change, that we're able to have better stewardship of the earth, the gift that God gave us. No? Pray for those who are affected, and many are, by the droughts and the floods. And also the massive migrations are partly due to climate change. Military know that that's true, and there'll be more of it. No? And educate is learn, inform yourself, and then teach others. Parents, your children. We grew up saying turn off the lights, and there are places I go to and the lights are on all day, every day, and never turned off, even though there's nobody in the rooms. So there's a lot of education and about our diets. That's another one with children and the way we recycle. And there is a program underway at one of our parishes. We're trying to get it into the diocesan pastoral center, and if it works there, we'll probably bring it to the parishes, where all the things that get used in the cafeterias or in the lunchrooms at our parishes are biodegradable. They're made of cornstarch and the leftovers of sugar cane, so that when they go into the garbage into the landfill, they disintegrate rapidly. No? The other thing that's probably even better than that is going back to the old glass and plates and cups and saucers, but then we have to wash them. No? But so there's a lot that we should do to educate ourselves and then reach outwards. No? And finally, advocate means we have to put some pressure on our leaders. I remember I probably mentioned to you Teddy Roosevelt about the group that went in to see him to convince him of something. He said, okay, you've convinced me. Now go out and bring pressure on me. In other words, how much force you got behind you? How many votes do you have? Whether it's right or wrong doesn't make any sense to me. I was just talking about the pledge. We give this little card, and it's a nice picture of St. Francis, and it says, pray, educate, activate. And then the people say, well, what am I supposed to do? And you say, well, turn it over. There's 10 things there you can do. And these are things that children can do, youth can do, every one of us can do, in our home, in my personal life. And then, of course, into our community and on out. And then do things like, I just wrote an op-ed to the Union Tribune here. For some reason it didn't get published, but I sent it out to a whole lot of other people, and saying that we're the biggest addiction in the Americas right now in the United States isn't alcohol, It isn't pornography, or isn't drugs. What is it? Oil. And that's one of the addictions we need to work on, you know, together. Because it's kind of like together we can do this. I remember, it just popped into my mind now, the phrase from Cesar Chavez, the great Californian, who said, "Si se puede," you know? Yes, we can. You know, we can make a difference, and each and every one of us are part of that. We can make that difference, no? And it's up to us to do that. No, it's a moral responsibility. No, there's a song, and we sing it in English at the masses many times, and I'm sure you've heard it at least once. Go make a difference. You can make a difference. You can make a difference in the world. And I like to change one word. I say, go make a difference. We can make a difference. We can make a difference in the world. And so together we can do this. We can pray. We can educate. We can activate. And yes, things are moving, and they need to move perhaps much faster. The Secretary General of the United Nations recently spoke saying that we're at the tipping point, that this is crucial. Dr. Ramanathan, who is the Hindu scientist from Scripps Institute, was on the Pontifical Institute of Science, also recently published an op-ed in Union Tribune. And he said, you know, we can't depend totally on technology. That's a big part of it, but that's not all of it. We also need strong laws. We need leaders and leadership, and we need society to transform. That's you and I and all of us, no? And once we do it, then we can reach out and push upward, you know? And so the only thing we can't do, we shouldn't do, is be indifferent. There's a man by the name of Edmund Burke, I believe is English. He said, all that's needed for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. And so you and I can't do nothing. So go make a difference in the world. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Okay?